because you can't confidently communicate a role that hasn't been clearly defined. Welcome back to another episode of the Quiet Leaders podcast. Today's episode is for a very specific kind of listener. And if this is for you, I really want you to listen closely to this today. So this episode is for the person who runs the back end of a business, holds timelines, details, and momentum, is looped into decisions because you just get it, and somehow you might still struggle to explain what you actually do behind the scenes. And you're likely already doing the work, you're carrying that responsibility, and you're trusted at a high level, but you don't quite have the language for it yet. And this is not imposter syndrome. This is not a confidence issue. This is actually an identity and positioning gap. So today we're going to talk about why so many people are already doing integrator level work, even if they've never used that word before. So I want to talk about how people end up here. And this is what I see over and over again, because most integrators, they don't decide to become integrators. They naturally grow into the role. And it's likely they come from support roles, admin roles, operations, caregiving, corporate roles, or survival seasons where being adaptable mattered more than being visible. And then they learn how to read the room, anticipate needs, translate those ideas into action, and really keep things moving without needing that recognition. And over time, they become the person that everyone relies on. But because they didn't step into this role through, say, a formal title or a promotion, they never got the language for it. It's likely they just kept saying yes, kept solving problems, kept holding things together. Now I want to talk about some of the signs that you're already doing integrator work. So if you're managing timelines, not just the tasks, if you're translating these big picture ideas into concrete next steps, if you're the one people check with before decisions are finalized, if you're the one holding context across multiple projects or teams, if you're the one who spots problems before they become fires, or maybe you're the one putting out some fires. And if you're thinking 3 steps ahead while others are still brainstorming or still stuck in that idea phase. And here's a big one. You don't just do the work. You think about how the work fits together. And that is the shift. That's the difference between being helpful and being strategic. So here's kind of the hard part about this. And it's when your role evolves before your identity does. So that's when things kind of start to feel off. Now you might hear yourself saying things like, I don't want to oversell myself. I don't really know what to call what I do. I'm doing the work, but it doesn't feel reflected in what I'm calling myself or what I'm being paid. And because no one has named the role for you, you start to question yourself. But the issue is not that you're unqualified. It's that your responsibility has grown, your authority has grown, but your positioning hasn't quite caught up yet. And being in that gap can really create this friction for yourself. Being in that friction space can start to cause burnout. I also want to mention that this is not a confidence problem either. So because it's not a confidence problem, this is not going to be solved by having a pep talk or just being more confident or being louder and more visible on social media. Because the issue, again, isn't confidence, it isn't visibility, it's actually clarity. Because you can't confidently communicate a role that hasn't been clearly defined. So confidence comes after this clarity, not before it. Now I want to go into a little bit why integrators often feel undervalued. And that's because integrators, our work is quiet by nature. We're behind the scenes. We're not out in the spotlight, right? And because things happen behind the scenes, we're doing preventative work, not necessarily flashy cool looking things. I mean, I think what I do is pretty freaking cool, but to some people, the stuff behind the scenes doesn't feel that flashy or things like that. And when we do our job well, things, they just work, which means people don't always see the effort. They don't see the thinking that happens to make things just work. And they don't necessarily see that leadership either. And when you don't name your role, others will default to seeing you as support, even when you're functioning as that strategic partner. And that's not because they're trying to hold you back or anything like that. It's because humans rely on language to understand value. So what happens or what changes when you finally name this role for yourself is that everything starts to shift when you finally have this language for what you do. When you can say, this is the role that I play, this is how I support the business, this is the level of responsibility I hold, you stop over explaining. That's a big thing for us behind the scenes people. We tend to over explain. We like to provide a lot of details because we're naturally detail oriented. We also stop undercharging and we stop shrinking the impact that we make. We make an incredible impact and we don't give ourselves enough credit for that. And when we make this shift, we really start to lead conversations instead of just reacting to them. And this is exactly why over the next few weeks, I'm going to be releasing episodes with other certified integrators and showcase people who once felt unclear, underpaid, kind of stuck in their support role, and who now own their role, work fewer hours, earn more aligned income, and feel confident in the value that they bring. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear their stories, not because they're special in any way, but because they were exactly where you are at one point, and now they have shifted and bridged that identity gap. So if this episode feels like it's describing your day-to-day, if you've been nodding along thinking, wait, this is totally me, I want to personally invite you to my Integrator Bootcamp on March 11th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central. This is a 3-hour live immersive bootcamp where we are going to clearly define the integrator role. We're going to break down what integrators actually do behind the scenes. And we are going to help you step into this level of work with clarity and confidence. Now, this year we did condense it into one focused day so that you can fully block the time and be present. And if you show up live, we are going to be offering several giveaways and incentives to those who show up. But if you cannot make the live bootcamp, there will be a replay sent out as well. I highly recommend being there live, and you can ask your questions and really be present in that. And this is really where things are going to click for you. This is where that role gets named and where your next level begins. So you didn't imagine your growth. You didn't accidentally become indispensable. And you're not too much for wanting your role to be reflected clearly. You're already doing this work. Now it's time to finally call it what it is. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode and hopefully inside the bootcamp as well.